That is view ng container, ng template, and what else is there? ng
ng
template,
content.
ng content. Okay. So, ng template, outlet rep. So all those things we are going to see. Let's create new component. That inform component we have to add the layout. Sorry. ng content and ng directive. Now, so first we will see ng container. Let's say you have a city list string of array you have. Okay. By default, I'm making it empty. In constructor, after some second, I need to add a data to this variable. Okay. By default, I have created an empty array. But after some time, I have to add data to this variable. How do I do that? After some time, I need to add the city list into this variable. How do I do it?
Set
This
timeout.
dot city list,
Set timeout, no?
then maybe
No. I said after some time, I need to add the data to this variable. So obviously set timeout, right? Whenever you have something like you need to do after some time, set timeout, correct? Let's say after 9 seconds, you need to add it. So this dot city list is equal to array 1, 2, May, May, Delhi, Noida, Jaipur. Okay. So I have a variable because I wanted to do the equal, but again, same thing. So in set timeout, I'm adding some data into it. Now, when we have to display this data into our HTML, so what we normally do, let's say call 3. Let's say I want to display this data in my ULLI. So what we do UL, li, and at the rate for loop. On city list, we will use the for loop. Is this track mandatory in for loop? This track property is mandatory in for loop?
No, sir.
no.
It is mandatory. See,
Mandatory. But
okay.
okay.
In for ng for that track by was there. That was optional. But in for loop, track is mandatory. Okay.
In control flow statement.
Yeah. But if you use ng for, in ng for also we have this track, but it is called it was called as track by. There it was optional. Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Li. So what kind of data we are going to get in item? What will be the data type?
String.
String only,
String.
because we have array of string. Okay. Let's save. Every single day. Yesterday we implemented interceptor. After that, it is breaking, I think. Error interceptor. But 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Why we are getting 401? We are passing the correct credential, right? Demo 10 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, API we change. User app. Okay. For that token we change no user app. Get all user. Let's create one more user. Just saying same. Well, okay, we didn't create it. Okay, ng directive. So see, by default, we don't have anything. After 9 seconds, we will have the data into our variable, then our ULLI should see. Got it? In our normal API also, whenever we do the API, after some time we get the data. Then we display that into the table, right? But unless we don't have the data, our UI is blank. So user
Right.
won't understand like what is happening. Consider the same scenario in user. So in user over here, we are showing the list. But let's say API is taking some time. So this will be empty by default. Once the user get the data, then once API call sender response that, then your card will be created. But for that time, it will be empty, like how it is looking over here now. It's empty. User won't understand. See what is happening, right? So for that, we can show loader, right? So I think loader I have explained na, previously. Loader,
Yes.
right? So again, same thing. So this is the UL, right? Inside that, we can create ng container, ng hyphen container. Okay. So now, if city list doesn't have any data, so what I can show either, sorry, at the rate, if here we can say city list dot length is equal to 0. If the length is 0, we will say we will load this container, ng container, and here we can say p tag, no city data found, or it's loading. Okay. This is if statement. What we are writing, if the city array doesn't have any length, city length is 0, then we are going to show this. So ng container is just like another div. Just like a div. How do we create a div? Just like that, it's a tag. But it won't actually create a, what do we say? It won't actually create an element in the DOM. It's an imaginary div. Okay. And then at the rate else, we have to use actually this for loop. Okay. So now if we do this, by default, see this tag is coming because by at that initial time we have array as empty. And if we inspect this, you won't be able to see that ng container. Let's do it again. While writing code, we have written the ng container. But if you see the UI, see, we don't have ng container, right? So that's the imaginary div. Okay. Whenever you have to write, whenever you have to create something, whenever you have to hide or show something, and you don't want to create external, one more extra div, because there are so many places where UI is very, applications are very UI specific. In so many projects, we have specific UI developer who creates the proper UI. So we cannot insert an extra div also because it might disturb the structure, right? So there we have to use ng container. It won't actually insert any element inside your DOM. Okay, this is one case. Another, let's use ngif and ng for directive and ng, right? So those who are new, we are using standalone component. So in standalone component, if you have to use ng-for and ngif, you have to import it. Then only you can use it. Now, let's say I have a drop down. Inside that drop down, I need to show the options. An option will be city list, right? So what I can do, star ng for let city of city list, fine, and whatever the data we have, that we will print it over here. Class from select. Okay, so by default, you can see that drop down is empty. So here what I need to do until now, unless I get the data, I don't need to show this option. Okay, so when do I have to load this option? If this city list has the data. Okay, so on this same element, I need to add ngif also. Means when do I have to load this option? If city list has the data. Can we add ngif and ngfor on a same element?
No, sir.
Right? So that is the basic behavior of structural directive. What are the structural directives? How many
That are
structural directives we have?
ngif, ng4,
Again, how many
ngSwitch.
structural directives? See, structural directive means directive which are responsible to add and remove element from the DOM. ngif does that, ngfor does that, and ngSwitch. Correct? And what are the attribute directives?
ng class, ng style.
Right. Remaining, you are in this flow, right? Everyone is understanding, right? Only one person
Yes,
is
sir.
answering, right? So ngif and ngSwitch, these are structural. Ng class and ng style, these are attribute. Why attribute? They are
Attribute
only
directive.
able to change the attribute. They can't add or remove the element. They can't change the structure of the DOM. They can just provide additional value to the attribute, existing element only. Okay. Now, so there is a rule like on one element, we cannot have ngfor and ngif. But let's say you have to add it like that. So you cannot add it over here, star ngif like this. Let's say city list is, when we have to display this, if city list dot len is not equal to 0. So see here only we will get the error. Cannot have multiple template binding on one element. Use only one attribute prefix with star. Means structural directive we cannot add multiple on a same element. So if you have a requirement where you need to add ngif also and ngfor also on the same element, so you cannot do that. So now for that, you will, in that case, you will use ng container. Now inside select, can I create div? Inside my drop down, can I create div?
No, sir.
We can create,
No,
it
sir.
won't give you the error. HTML doesn't give any error, right? But we cannot create in select, we can only have the option, right? So here we cannot create a div, but we can create ng container. So here we will add that condition. If city list length is not equal to 0, then only we will add this. Understood? So ng container is mainly used, and the interview question and in so many certification questions also, this is very famous question. What if I have to add ngif and ngfor in a same element? We cannot do that. So for that, we move our condition outside of that element on the ng container, and there we add the ngif, and on the inside element we will have our ngfor. So it's basically doing the same thing, but we are not adding ngfor and ngif in the same element.
But we can put this ng container
Hmm.
before select.
Yeah, before select also you can do that. Okay. Anywhere, either you can put it over here or here, anywhere. Idea is you cannot use ng for and ng in the same element. So for that, in that scenario, we can use ng container also. This is also a scenario and this is also a scenario of ng for. Understood, everyone?
Yes.
When we have to create the ng for ng container, when we need to add an element, but we cannot insert an element. So just to write the programming, we use ng container. This is not going to do any extra thing in the UI. This is for our purpose only, just to write the some condition or code. Clear? Everyone?
Yes.
ng
Yes.
कंटेनर बहुत इजी है. जहां पे भी हमें इमेजिनरी डिव क्रिएट करना है कंडीशन लिखने के लिए, लेकिन वो हम डिव वगैरह क्रिएट नहीं कर सकते. बहुत सारे यूआई के एप्लीकेशन वैसे होते हैं जहाँ पे एक्स्ट्रा डिव भी डाला ना तुमने तो भी तुम्हारा सीएसएस का स्ट्रक्चर बिगड़ सकता है. रिस्पॉन्सिव होगा तो रिस्पॉन्सिव बिगड़ सकता है, तो हम एक्स्ट्रा डिव नहीं डाल सकते. लेकिन हमें अगर कंडीशन लगानी है तो तुम ng कंटेनर यूज कर सकते हो. ये एक्स्ट्रा डिव एक्स्ट्रा एलिमेंट ऐड नहीं करता तुम्हारे पेज में. ठीक है? ओके.
सर तो डॉम में इंस्टेंटली ऐड करता है क्या, या डॉम में ऐड ही नहीं होता कुछ?
डॉम में कुछ भी नहीं दिखता ये.
ओके, तो फिर हम एक्सेस वगैरह नहीं कर सकते डीएस में?
नहीं, कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते इसको.
और इस पे क्लास लग सकती है सर?
नहीं, ये अगर यूआई में आता ही नहीं है तो क्लास कैसे लगाओगे?
ये मतलब डॉम में इंसर्ट ही नहीं हो रहा, तो
डॉम
फिर
में
तो कुछ
इंसर्ट ही नहीं है ना. तुम्हारे पेज में आता ही नहीं है तो क्लास कैसे लगाओगे? यहाँ पे लगाने के लिए लगा दोगे लेकिन वहां पे रेंडर ही नहीं होगा. ओके.
जब
ओके।
में आता है तो स्केलेटन यूआई दिखाते हैं, तो उस टाइम पे
नहीं नहीं, ये स्केलेटन भी नहीं है. स्केलेटन एक्चुअली डिव होता है, ये दिखता ही नहीं है डॉम पे पेज पे. ओके. ये हमारे लिए सिर्फ कोडिंग करने के लिए बचा है कि कभी
पर
कभी
जब
ऐसे
ट्रू हो
सिनेरियो
जाए
है.
इसकी कंडीशन फिर तो दिखेगा ना?
नहीं दिखता, वही
फिर
तो
दिखेगा, फिर क्लास इस पे लगा सकते हैं?
नहीं दिखेगा. ये देखो, अभी डिव के अपने सिलेक्ट के अंदर अपना ng कंटेनर है. दिख रहा है क्या यही पे, यहाँ पे कहीं ng कंटेनर?
नहीं.
वही तो बोल रहा हूँ मैं,
नहीं।
दिखता ही नहीं है. ये सिर्फ हमारे कोडिंग लिखने के लिए है, यहाँ तक ही लिमिटेड है, यूआई में नहीं आता ये. ओके.
ओके।
क्लियर है सबको?
यस.
ओके. अब जब हमने when we saw ngif, okay, what's the purpose of ngif?
टू शो और हाइड.
Do we actually show or hide, or what do we do? Do we actually show hide, or what do we do? Hmm? No,
we
now we
insert
remove
the
element.
element,
Remove element and again create it.
remove element.
By the look at it, means how does it perform? We know like it's a hide and show, but it's not hiding and showing. It's actually removing the element from the DOM and again creating it. Okay. Now, so I have a variable is active and value is false. Here I will create a span, and here I can write star ng if this variable is true, if this variable is true, equal to true, I will render this div. Let's say student is active. I will add some class also. Text success. Okay. So if student is true, I will have this span visible. By default,
स्पेलिंग मिस्टेक.
by default, nothing will come. Okay. But if I if I change this variable to true, then my span will be visible. Okay. But my scenario is if this variable is true, I need to show this. Otherwise, I need to show something else. So other span will be there, right? So in other span, again, we will use this same condition. But instead of true, it will be now false. And here I will say student is deactive. Okay. And here I will add the class something that is danger. Okay. So now student is active. If I change the variable to false, my other span will be visible with red color. Clear? Understood?
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
there is a problem with ngif. So whenever we write ngif, this is also going to execute. This is also going to execute. So it is going to take some time to evaluate this. Correct, na? Here
Right.
also we have ngif.
Right.
Here also we have ngif. So obviously it is going to take some time to evaluate this. Like what is this operation? What is the true and false? Then it will run some code in that ngif directive. But another way to use it, just like if else, how do we know over here? If and else, right? Same thing we can do in ngif also. So if this condition is true, this div will render. Otherwise, in else, we can pass a template. Okay. Now here, this span, I will wrap it up in my ng template. Okay. Now this is the second ng template. And it's like again imaginary div, but it won't render itself. हमने अगर ऐसा लिखा है ng template और उसके अंदर कुछ अभी यहाँ पे कंडीशन की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. अगर हमने ऐसा ng template लिखा है, ng कंटेनर में क्या था? This was whatever the content we have in ng container, it was getting populated in the DOM, not ng container, but inside content it was rendering. But in case of ng template, it won't render itself unless we have to use this ng template in somewhere. Okay, it's like you are putting some HTML code inside a div, inside a block, but that block is not going to render by itself. We have to render it into some another div or some another content. ये अपने आप रेंडर नहीं होता है. ये अगर मैंने ऐसा लिखा तो ये अपने आप रेंडर नहीं होगा. लिख के दिखाता हूं. अभी ये एनजी टेम्पलेट है, उसके अंदर ये स्टूडेंट डीएक्टिव लिखा है. सी, नथिंग इज विजिबल. Okay, so ng template won't render by itself. We have to render it into some another element. Okay, so for that we have to give a template reference variable. So hash, then let's say deactive template. Okay, now if this condition is true, this element will render. Else to this, and after that else, we need to provide template reference variable. So see now it has rendered that. So if this variable is true, this span will be visible, else this template will render. Understood? अगर ये कंडीशन ट्रू है तो तुम्हारा ये स्पैन यूआई पे बनेगा. अदरवाइज ये टेम्पलेट रेंडर होगी और टेम्पलेट के अंदर जो कोड है वो रेंडर होगा. क्लियर? इसलिए मैंने बोला कि एनजी टेम्पलेट खुद से रेंडर नहीं होगा. इट वोंट रेंडर इटसेल्फ. We have to render it somewhere. So this is also a use case. ngif, if this variable is true, this span will be visible. Otherwise, it will render this template and whatever the UI we have in this template. Clear?
Instead of using span, sir, we also use ng container.
But again, you have to add the ngif, na? Again, there will be two ngif statement, right? You can. With div also you can do that. With ng container also do that. But again, you need two if statement, na? So obviously it will take some time to evaluate that. Got it?
No, with ng template, we can also use ng container.
Yeah, that combination is also there. We can use it. Main idea is,
Sir, at the end, एक्सेसिव डे यूज को बचाता है, वही बात है ना। इसके अलावा तो कोई-
हाँ, clear guys? ng template. Now ng container and ng template totally are different, but both we can use it in a combination also. ng content and ng template we can use it in combination, but ng container is something else and ng template is something else. Okay, as behavior wise. Clear? Anyone have any
Yes.
doubt? Okay, so this is one of the use of ng template. Okay, then ng template, how do we again use it? Even remembering how do we use it ng template again?
एनजी टेम्पलेट आउटलेट एट्रीब्यूट से भी हम सर वो रेंडर कर सकते हैं।
ng template outlet. Okay, wait. So everyone understood ng container, ng template? Anyone having doubt? Okay. Now ng template outlet. This is little bit tricky. Okay. So dot call 4. Now consider you have some UI. Let's say if we are working on an e-commerce application, let's say product data is there, cart data is there, and that kind of data you have to showcase in multiple places. Okay, if we talk about product will have image, price, category, or something related data we have it multiple places. Okay, now if we have to showcase that data every time we create the UI, right? And there we use that interpolation and everything. Every time same thing we are going to do it. But instead of that, that property, like whatever the property we are going to use to display in the interpolation, that is going to be repeated, right? So I'm not able to I'm not sure like you will understand or you will be able to imagine that scenario. Or let's create a normal example, then let's try if you understand it. Okay, so what we will do, we have created this city list. Now this city list I have to showcase it somewhere. Okay, so in call for we will create div, and in this div we will use ng container. Okay, on ng container we can pass the data to this ng container, and one more template I will create after this row ng hyphen template, and here I will say hash display temp. Okay, now inside this what I'm going to use, we have added that here I can create a variable let hyphen key or value. Okay, and here I will use p tag, and here I will directly print this variable value, whatever the value we get. Okay, see, I have created a template. Inside that, normal my template reference variable there, and it's like a variable. For this template, it's like a variable. Means wherever we are going to use this ng template, we can pass some data to that, and that data we will get it into this variable. And whatever the variable value we get, that we are trying to display it over here. Let me repeat once again. We have created an ng template, template reference variable created. It's like a function, and this function has a parameter. Wherever we call this function, we have to pass that parameter, and whatever the value we pass, that we will get it over here, and that we are using it over here. Now understood? ये ऐसा कंसिडर करो, आपने एक टेम्पलेट बनाया है, टेम्पलेट को एक वेरिएबल बनाया, इनपुट वेरिएबल दिया है। जहां पे भी आप टेम्पलेट यूज करोगे वहां से आप क्या करोगे, इस को डेटा सेंड करोगे, और वो जो डेटा मिलेगा आप यहाँ पे यूज कर रहे हो।
बट ये ऐसे लेट से कोई भी वेरिएबल डिक्लेयर कर सकते हैं सर?
कुछ भी वेरिएबल का नाम है, की दो, वैल्यू दो, कुछ भी दो।
ये डिव में भी चल जाता है क्या, या सिर्फ टेम्पलेट में ही होता है?
नहीं, टेम्पलेट का चीज है ये।
सर सिर्फ टेम्पलेट में ही चलेगा? ओके।
क्लियर है सब, सबको ये?
Yes.
ओके। नाउ दिस टेम्पलेट आई नीड टू रेंडर इन inside this div, means on this ng container. Okay, so first I will use star ng for, you can use ng for our normal for loop also, like city of city list. Now over here, as I said, ng container and ng template we can use in a combination. Okay, so here inside ng container we have star ng template. Why it's not suggesting? Outlet is equal to, then here we have to provide the template name first. Okay, do we need to import it? Yes, we need to import it. What is this? What it can be?
Directive.
Structural directive. A directive we start with star, it's a structural directive. So ng template outlet is also a directive in structural directive. Okay, so ng template out, that's why it was not suggesting. Now you can see it is suggesting. Okay, so here first parameter, like we are in this ng container, we are injecting this ng template. So for injecting like that, we have to use template outlet. So we have passed our template name. After that, this template, whenever we are able to access it, it can accept some data. So here we have to create the context. Why it's not suggesting? And there we can pass the data. So here we have to specify the for passing the data to the ng template, we have some specific syntax. Dollar implicit. Why it's not suggesting? I don't know. I'm getting error now. Let's try to pass directly user city. Let's save and check if it is working first. Not working. So star template outlet. Spelling is also correct. We are passing this over here. How do we need to pass the data? Template reference, then in object city. Same thing we are passing. Our template reference. After that, how we are passing it? In object, we need to pass it. See, template reference, and then whatever the data you have, that you can pass it over here in the object. So template context is needed, or directly we can pass it. Let's try.
I
No,
think
like
value,
this.
like value.
No, this value is a parameter name over here. No, we don't have to pass it the same name over here. Why it is not able to pass it like this? Something or what?
बाबा को भी जाना पड़ेगा। इन
This is our row call for. Wait. Div is there. Div is created. Span multiple paragraph is also created, but inside that we are not able to show the data. See, paragraph is created, but it's empty. Okay, means over here we are not getting this value. We whatever the way we are passing it, it's not getting its value over here. This value is empty. How else do we pass it? Something dollar implicit was there. IMPLICRT. Okay, so implicit.
ओके सर।
So see, how do we have to pass the data to, if we are using ng template inside a ng container, and while using ng template, we have to pass some data also. So we have to create the context. So have I used context word before? Yesterday, I think I have used, right? See, what do we know by context from JavaScript? Context is a word in JavaScript also, correct? What do we know by context? Context ये word हम कहाँ पे use करते हैं? सही में नहीं पता कि पहली बार सुन रहे हो ये वर्ड? कॉन्टेक्स्ट वर्ड कहाँ पे यूज करते हैं अपन?
रिएक्ट में तो डेटा जहाँ पे हमें पास करना पड़ता है वहाँ पे हम कॉन्टेक्स्ट यूज करते हैं।
वो एग्जीक्यूशन कॉन्टेक्स्ट अलग। हाँ, एग्जीक्यूशन कॉन्टेक्स्ट यू माइट हैव heard it or no? Execution context.
यस
Hmm.
See,
एग्जीक्यूशन।
let me show you. Structural. Let me open the structural directive. So inside the structural directive on hide d1, so this is a function. Once I click on it, which one is the function? Okay. So now if you see in the developer mode, you got this scope. Execution context means whenever your function is in executing, so it will create some object or some, what do we say, some scope of it. Okay. See, currently this function is executing. Line number 37 is active. So this function scope has been created. So that you can see it over here. Okay. From where we call this function. So you can see this is the active function. We can backtrack also. Okay. So if I click over here, from this button, this function got called. See, currently we are on this line, but this function got called from where? So if, before that, you can see it is getting called from over here. So execution context means whatever you are currently where, you are currently in this function. So whatever this function has some variable, local variable, so you will be able to access that. You might have heard that word in closure or hoisting, execution context. See, in this function, we can create some variables, local variable, and that we can access inside this function only. Whenever we are active in this function, we cannot access those function, those variable outside this function, because those variables are defined inside that variable. So inside the function scope only we can access those variable, right? So scope of this function, that is nothing but execution context. So just keep that in mind. Similar to that, every time whenever we are going to create a new instance of ng container, a new object of this ng template will be there. And for that, we are passing a context, means a scope we are creating. And in that scope, we are passing this data.
And we pass array and object also, sir.
Anything, man. Here string, it there array object, anything. Data, whenever we are passing some data, either it is input or ng template. If we can pass string, we can pass array object, anything. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Fine. If you are not understanding that, forget it. Simply remember, how do we use ng template? So first is like this way. In ng, if we use it. Okay. Another way is if we have to use ng template inside ng container, we can do like this. But let's say while using ng container, we have to pass some data also. So to pass the data, ng context we have to use. And in ng context, dollar implicit, and we have to pass the whatever the value you have. Either it can be a normal variable, array variable, it can be string, number, boolean, array, object, anything. Okay. Now, what's the actually use of doing this then? Whatever we have done, what's the actually use of it? Let's say for now you have city list, so you have done like that. Let's say after some time you got state list. Okay. So now I have another list, that is state list. Now this state list also I need to display. And my structure should be this, like this. Okay. Currently we don't have that structure, but let's say you are working on a project where some common UI, small block will be there that you need to display it everywhere. So let's say you have some H1, P, and again something is there. So that kind of data you need to display. So in every component you need to display. So for doing that, in a same component, you are using this kind of UI structure multiple times. Just value is going to be different. But this template, whatever 3 or 4 set of elements are there, those are going to be repeated multiple times, right? So instead of creating it, those things multiple times, you can wrap it up inside a G template, and wherever you need that certain piece of element to display some data, you will use it like this. So now, let's say I have call for, and in this call for, I have to display state list. Let's use it at the rate for loop now over here. State list. Again, ng container. Okay. Here I will use star ng template outlet is equal to first parameter will be this only. So this ng template I'm using it over here again. Semicolon context dollar implicit, and here what I will pass item. Let's make it state. With this state I will pass it over here. Okay. So now this template you are using it multiple times. In case of city also you are using it, and in case of state also you are using it. See? So what we have achieved by doing this? हमने क्या achieve किया by doing something like this? What we have achieved?
Reusable code.
Right? Reusability we have achieved.
We can reuse it.
Okay. Now understand the scenario where you will be using it. Let's say you have some structure. Let's say H1 is there, and inside H1 you have P tag. Okay. You have some icon also over here. Okay. Let's say this 3 element structure you have to use in your component multiple times. Just value is going to be different, but this structure is going to be same. So instead of creating this structure everywhere, you can put this in an ng template, and wherever you want to display this structure with different value, you will use this way. Understood? कंसिडर करो तुम्हारे एक कंपोनेंट में बहुत बड़ा कंपोनेंट है, बहुत सारा HTML है, ये जो स्ट्रक्चर है बहुत सारी जगह लगने वाला है. ओके, सेम काइंड ऑफ स्ट्रक्चर बहुत सारी जगह लगने वाला है. सो instead of writing this same structure everywhere, what you will do, you will put this structure into this ng template. ng template में आप ये स्ट्रक्चर रखोगे, और जहां पे भी आपको ये स्ट्रक्चर दिखाना है, जहां पे आपको वैल्यू दिखाना है, तो यहाँ पे ng template वहां पे यूज करोगे और उसको ऐसा डेटा भेजोगे. अब ये नॉर्मली, आई डोंट नो आप लोगों ने वैसे प्रोजेक्ट पे काम किया है. Whenever we have a project where we have a read only page, in every page we can show some data. Some user will have access to edit the data, they will get the form, but some are guest user, or some are the user who don't have access, they can only read that information in a readable way. So there we use this structure where we have read only form. We don't have to show the text box, just key value pair data we have to show. There we have to use this kind of data. Okay, so in my project we have this, we have done this in a starting only, and we have, instead of writing this in a component, we have created a reusable component. Okay, so understood how do we use it?
अगर इसको
You can
एक्सप्लेन
use
करना
any
है
content
तो
over here too, right? After line 35 something.
Yeah,
No. We can do the combination of all these three, ng container, ng template, and ng content.
no, means
So I just want to use ng content in this example, how we can use.
ng content is something else, no? This is not ng content. This ng content we have to use it some another way. Okay, I will tell you it wasn't. Is this clear, everyone? Someone else was asking question. कौन पूछ रहा था? और कोई बात कर रहा था ना? कौन था? अंबिका थी? कौन था? क्या पूछ रहे थे, बताओ ना.
हाँ सर, मतलब
Let's say if I have to use ng
अरे
if as well in this scenario, how I can use ng if?
करण
Because the city list will take time
लेटर
from the
कंप्लीट
API
ना,
to come.
लेटर कंप्लीट. हाँ अंबिका बोलो.
अगर
City
इसको
list को सिटी
अभी
लिस्ट को
वेट,
टाइम लगेगा एपीआई से आने को, है ना, रिस्पॉन्स में. मुझे एनजीएफ भी यूज करना, वो
हाँ तो
कैसे
यूज करो
करेंगे
ना
यहाँ पे?
एनजीप. यहाँ पे कुछ, ये नॉर्मल टेम्पलेट है तो यूज तो करोगे एनजीप. एनजीप का और एनजी टेम्पलेट का और एनजी कंटेनर का कुछ भी लेना देना नहीं है, वो नॉर्मली काम करेगा. ओके, जैसे काम करता है एनजीप वैसे ही काम करेगा.
ओके.
ओके, हाँ अंबिका.
सेम स्ट्रक्चर यूज हो रहा है तो इसको हम मतलब रियूजेबल बना सकते हैं क्या?
कंपोनेंट में भी रख सकते हैं. लेट्स से ये जो सेम स्ट्रक्चर है, राइट,
यस.
what it, by doing this what we are achieving reusability, but instead of writing this we can create a reusable component also. That's the actual way of doing it. But let's say this type of content, this kind of UI element you are not using outside this component, then you will create reusable component.
नो.
अंबिका, got it?
यस यस.
जो भी आपका यूआई का स्ट्रक्चर है ये आपके इसी कंपोनेंट के लिए लिमिटेड है, तो फिर कंपोनेंट क्यों क्रिएट करोगे ना. So if on a component level something is repeated, so we have to go for ng template. Okay, so everything whatever we have has a real proper purpose of it, right? ng when you will create reusable component, when that same piece of functionality or code is going to be used in multiple components. But let's say we have some certain HTML tags are there which we are going to use in a group and multiple time in the same component, so we have to go for ng template. Clear?
यस.
Fine, everyone, clear है?
So, sir, we need to create a template reference variable for every ng template, right? So that
Yeah,
only we
without, see, as I said, na, ng template won't render itself. In one page, we can have multiple ng template. So how you will identify, right? In one HTML, one component page, you can have multiple ng template, right? So if you don't give something unique, how you will identify it? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Clear, everyone? Shall we move ahead?
Yes.
Okay. Now we have to see ng content. So ng content normally we use in reusable component. Okay. Now let's try to create a reusable component. Reusable. Let's go to the bootstrap. Everyone knows the bootstrap card, right? So this is the normal card we have. So what I need to do, I need to create a reusable card component where header can be static. This is the normal structure of a card. We will have card div, inside that we will have header, inside that body, inside that footer. Here some string information we show. Here something content will be there, and here we have some footer. Okay. So let's say I need to create a reusable. Just a minute. Okay. So see, this is the card and you need to create a reusable component for this. Okay. So what you will do, let's create a component first. G generate component card. Suraj, you are not audible. कुछ पूछना है? Suraj? Okay. Okay. So I have created a card. Inside this card, I will put my card div. Okay. Now inside this card, I will have two input. How many input I can need over here? By seeing the structure, how many input I can need?
Three
Two.
inputs.
So first header we will need. Here body, we can pass HTML template also by element ref as an input. And in footer, if you want to showcase some information. Okay, that part I'm not going to do right now. Element, how do we pass element? But we will need header and the footer. Okay. So first now I will just create the header one. Input header text data type string is equal to by default empty. Whatever the header text I get, that I will display it over here. Okay. Now my reusable component should be like that. That in body, I need to render something. If I'm in the employee page, I will display employee form. If I'm in the salary page, I will display salary form, right? My body will have different HTML content to be loaded directly. So here we have to use ng content. ng content. Okay. Some footer. So I'm putting this header footer as a static only. So we have created a reusable component that is card. Inside that we have a card structure. Header we can pass, and in body, card body, we have ng content. Now let's say I want to use this card. Let's add proper bg color also, bg success, or let's remove the footer for now. Bg success is there. Okay. Now this card component, I have to use it. So let's say if we go to the user page. First, if we have to use the component, we need to import the component, right? So card component. Now, where we were showing the data. So inside this row or inside this call, I will use app-card component. Okay. Now this card component has only one input, that is header text. So here we will say user list. And inside that, we will pass this whole row inside the selector of this reusable component. See what we have done. We have used the selector of the reusable component. We have passed the header information, first input information also. But inside this, we have passed the whole HTML. In between the selector of this component, I have passed the HTML content. Now this HTML content will get rendered over here inside the body. So this is like a way, if we are passing some data inside the selector from parent component, if we are passing some HTML content inside this selector, so whatever the content we are writing it over here, that get displayed over here. If we don't have it, it won't display. Let's remove it and check it first. See, nothing is getting displayed. We have rendered the card. User list is coming that we are passing from the parent component, but inside that nothing is displayed, right? So to display the content, whatever we have it over here, we need ng content. Let's save it. See, now you got the content. Understood?
Yes, sir.
See, अभी ये टॉपिक थोड़े से ऐसे है कि हार्ड ही है. हार्ड नहीं है, देखने में समझ आता है, लेकिन इसका यूज क्या है ना, क्यों करना है, ऐसे क्वेश्चन आ सकता है.
Yes, sir.
Okay, these topics are not hard because what we are seeing, it's very easy. Like if we are passing some data inside the selector, that get displayed over here, that's it. But question will come like, why do we need it and what are the scenarios where we are going to use it, right? Okay, so what's the purpose of ng content? Ng content project, it has a way to project the content whatever you are going to get inside that selector. जो भी आपका HTML का कोड होगा वो यहाँ पे दिखाने के लिए ng कंटेंट लगेगा. इट्स लाइक अ प्लेस होल्डर टू डिस्प्ले व्हाट्स द यूज ऑफ राउटर आउटलेट. What's the use of router outlet?
To display the
To render the activated component.
activated route.
Activated route component. राउटर आउटलेट, ये मैं 3-4 बार बता चुका हूँ. राउटर आउटलेट की प्रॉपर डेफिनेशन बताते जाओ. राउटर आउटलेट इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल टू रेंडर एक्टिवेटेड राउट कंपोनेंट. बहुत क्लियर है ये डेफिनेशन. हर बार अगर अलग अलग बता रहे हो ना, तो एक तो आपका फंबलिंग होता है. देखो, जैसे मैंने बोला ना कि वी हैव लिमिटेड क्वेश्चन इज एंगुलर. Not in every interview you are going to get ng container, ng template. No one will ask ng content also. Not in these questions are very specific scenario and very project related topics. So not every interviewer is going to ask this question. But router outlet, it's very common. Everyone is going to ask this, right? So have an answer ready. Okay, you should not fumble every time whenever you are answering. Okay, so that router outlet was responsible to render activated route component. Just like that, ng content is responsible to render whatever the content we put inside the selector of our reusable component. जो भी यहाँ पे कंटेंट रहेगा, इसको रेंडर करने का काम कौन करेगा? ng कंटेंट. क्लियर? क्लियर और नो? ओके, क्लियर है ng कंटेंट. अब ये एक्चुअल एग्जांपल यही है. बहुत सारे जब व्हेन वी वर्क ऑन एन एक्चुअल इंडस्ट्रियल प्रोजेक्ट ना, एवरीवेयर वी हैव सम स्ट्रक्चर. ओके, where we have to multiple time we use the same structure. So app card is an example of that. Okay, so we create a reusable component part for card, and inside that we use ng content because this needs to be static. Again, footer needs to be static. In case of some header na, we will have information over here, then we will have that anchor tag is there na, to maximize or minimize this accordion something. So that we will have, sometimes we will have button over here, right? So for that we have, when we create a reusable component for card, we have to use ng content. Clear? Clear or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. अब और एक वेरिएशन है, बट आई एम नॉट एक्सप्लेनिंग दैट राइट नाउ विद इन एनजी कंटेंट, और कंफ्यूजन होगा, इसलिए मैं अभी रुका रहा हूँ। ठीक है, मेरे को याद दिलाना जैसे अपना खत्म खत्म होते आएगा, जब अपन एक प्रॉपर, when we are in a proper situation where you can understand everything, then I will explain that. Okay, clear everyone? Ng container, ng template, ng template outlet, and ng content. These are the things we have seen. If you are going for an interview more than 3+ years, so these questions they will ask you, because in almost every industrial project, vast project, we have to use this concept. Okay, as I said, ये जो अपना था, ये बहुत जगह यूज होता है, this one. If you have worked on a project where you have readable forms, so this is mostly used over there. Again, there are so many variations. We can pass key value data, and key also will be dynamic and value will also be dynamic. So instead of passing directly just the value, we pass object, and here from that object we convert it to, what do we say, key value pair data, and key over here and then value over here, just like that. So many variations are there. Okay. Again, so the way I'm explaining it's look easy. Once you try to implement it, then you will get it some real efforts, right? So don't just watch it like a pravachan. Try to implement it, then only you will understand it. Okay, then only you will be confident while answering. सिर्फ मुझे सुनने से होगा नहीं, करके देखो। करने बैठोगे ना तब पता चलता है अरे कुछ ना कुछ मिस आउट हो रहा है। ओके, फाइन।
यस सर। सर जो एनवायरनमेंट हम क्रिएट करते हैं, मतलब डेवलपमेंट,
Environment.
स्टेजिंग और
हाँ हाँ
तो हाँ, उसका भी एक मतलब
हाँ, तो
थोड़ा।
वो प्रोजेक्ट में बताऊंगा ना, मैं प्रोजेक्ट में करेंगे एनवायरनमेंट फोल्डर क्रिएट।
ठीक है। और जो हाँ मतलब स्विच भी कैसे करते हैं, मतलब फाइल वर्किंग, तो वो भी एक्सप्लेन कर।
हाँ हाँ, वही
ठीक।
नॉर्मली जब डेवलपमेंट में अपन क्या करते हैं, स्टेजिंग का अलग यूआरएल होता है, यूएटी का अलग, देव का अलग, राइट? वो यूआरएल हम एनवायरनमेंट में रखते हैं, और जब बिल्ड निकालते हैं तब अपन एनवायरनमेंट बताते हैं, तो वो एनवायरनमेंट की फाइल एक्टिवेट हो जाती है।
मतलब अभी हम एनजी सर्व करते हैं तो हमारा जो भी डेवलपमेंट का,
डेवलपमेंट वाला।
तो हम अगर हमें स्विच भी करना है, हमें लोकल पे चेक करना है हमारा स्टेजिंग का कैसे चल रहा
नॉर्म
है, तो
नहीं, लोकल में करना है तो अपन वो एनवायरनमेंट में ही यूआरएल चेंज करते हैं। दैट इज जस्ट जब बिल्ड निकालते हैं अपन, तभी वो बाकी की फाइल यूज होती है। लोकल में तो, लोकल में नहीं स्विच कर सकते।
नहीं मतलब जैसे हम रिएक्ट में पैकेज डॉट जेसन में कैसे करते हैं कि हमारा जो एनवायरनमेंट वर्क करना है हमें,
हाँ
एनपीएम स्टार्ट पे हम उसका एनवायरनमेंट का नेम भी देते हैं।
हाँ, तो रिएक्ट में होगा वैसे कि लोकल में तुम एनवायरनमेंट फाइल बता सकते हो,
हाँ हाँ।
रिएक्ट में मल्टीपल एनवायरनमेंट फाइल नहीं होती है ना।
नहीं होती है ना, मतलब हमें अगर स्टेजिंग पे चेकआउट करना है कि हमारा एरर कहाँ पे आ रहा है, तो भी हम
हाँ,
स्टेजिंग पे स्टेजिंग का कोड रन कर सकते हैं, मतलब स्टेजिंग के
नहीं,
यूआर।
एनवायरनमेंट फाइल एक ही होती है ना रिएक्ट में भी, कि
हाँ,
मल्टीपल होती है?
एनवायरनमेंट फाइल एक ही होती है, लेकिन उसको स्विच कर सकते हैं एट द टाइम ऑफ रन, मतलब रन
अच्छा,
करते हुए उस
मैंने
टाइम।
नहीं करके देखा था। नहीं, एंगुलर में वैसा नहीं है। हमारी एनवायरनमेंट फाइल मल्टीपल रह सकती है, लेकिन लोकली रन करते वक्त एक ही फाइल बाय डिफॉल्ट होती है, दैट इज डेवलपमेंट एनवायरनमेंट डॉट टीएस।
ओके,
ओके,
मतलब लोकल पे हम अदर
सिर्फ
मतलब।
यूआरएल चेंज करो एनवायरनमेंट में जाके, यूएटी की या फिर स्टेजिंग की। बट जब बिल्ड निकालते हैं तब अपन एनवायरनमेंट की फाइल बता सकते हैं कि कौन से एनवायरनमेंट के लिए बिल्ड निकाल रहा है।
ओके।
ओके, एनीवन हैविंग एनी
सर
क्वेश्चन?
सर सर
हाँ,
सर अभी जो हम प्रोजेक्ट चला रहे हैं वो 4209 पे चला रहे हैं, राइट? तो
4209 पे।
अभी जब हम, यस, तो अभी जब हम प्रोजेक्ट गिट पे हम
हाँ, तो मैं
बिल्ड
वो
अपलोड करेंगे
अलाउ
तो
करता हूँ।
तभी
नहीं
नहीं
नहीं,
चलेगा
अलाउ
ना?
अलाउ करना है मुझे, मैं करता हूँ आज। एपीआई फिर से डिप्लॉय वो
ओके
चलेगा। तुम्हारा डालो, चल जाएगा तुम्हारा।
ओके सर।
ठीक है, मैं आज करूँगा।
ओके सर।
हो गया होस्ट
और
तुम्हारा?
सर ये हाँ सर, मैंने होस्ट किया है वहाँ पे।
हाँ,
और
और
सर
फेरा
वहाँ
डाल
पे
रहा है।
सर वो वहाँ पे कुछ मतलब मैंने जो बनाया ना वो एंगुलर 19 में बनाया है, ठीक है। तो अभी मैं बिल्ड बनाने बैठता हूँ ना तो वहाँ पे कुछ एरर आ रहा है कि आपका वर्जन 19 है वो सपोर्टेड नहीं है, ऐसा कुछ आ रहा है जब बिल्ड बना रहा है ना तो।
हाँ, तो बिल्ड के लिए 19 के लिए वो ब्राउजर फोल्डर आता है। तो कमांड ये है अपनी एंगुलर 17 प्लस, अगर बिल्ड बनाना है ना तो उसके लिए कहाँ पे गई? आ गया। अच्छा सर, ये ब्राउजर करके फोल्डर आता है, तो ये कमांड है, ये मैं
ओके।
सेंड कर रहा हूँ। इससे बनाओ, फिर बन जाएगी।
ओके सर।
गाइस फोटो क्यों डाल रहे हो अपनी? ओके,
ओके सर।
ये इससे बनाओ। जो पुराने वर्जन है ना, तब अपना डायरेक्टली डिस्क फोल्डर में प्रोजेक्ट के नाम में आता था, तो वहाँ पे ब्राउजर की जरूरत
ओके।
नहीं थी। बट
ओके।
17 प्लस ब्राउजर के अंदर आता है अपना बिल्ड। ओके,
ओके सर।
ठीक है। और किसी को कुछ क्वेश्चन है? ओके, फाइन देन, लेट्स कनेक्ट टुमारो। सूरज, विच एपीआई you need?
सर
हम्म
वो जो सर